morning, students. I am Professor Sumita Parmar, Principal Investigator for Women's Studies, and today I am going to introduce to you the first module of paper 15. This paper has been conceived to show how the intersections of region and caste, class, religion all combine in the exploitation and abuse of women. This exploitation and abuse has different faces in different parts of the country. The diversity in India is rich and varied, and the country has a composite, vibrant and multinational culture. But there are also clashes and disruptions in the social structure. So in what way does gender manifest itself in this culture? This paper sets about precisely to do that. So gender is the overriding perspective of the paper, and the different modules have been clubbed together in units, each one with a separate focus. The first unit, Unit 1, provides an overview of the entire country. So there are 7 modules over different topics, such as the initiatives that have been taken by the government for the empowerment of women, the declining child sex ratio, women in the field of sport, and the last one is women and entrepreneurship. In module 2 and 3 of this unit, we look at the laws and acts that offer special protection to the Indian woman. Besides Article 14, 15, 16 and 21 of the Constitution, which give the right to equality, the right to life and equal protection before the law, there is a very special article, Article 15(3), that provides for discrimination in favor of women. And then there is Article 51A that renounces practices derogatory to the dignity of women. And you are all aware that in 1993, the 73rd and 74th amendments to the Constitution were made, which provided for reservation of seats in the local bodies of panchayats and municipalities. Not only these, there are several government schemes which have been undertaken to provide special help to women. For example, there is the Rashtriya Mahila Kosh, the Indra Mahila Yojana, the Balika Samriddhi Yojana. These are just a few of them. So the modules critique these programs. They analyze the causes responsible for the deterioration of the position of women, the increase in sexual violence against them, and what these programs have done for the benefit of women. The next module is module 4, which looks at the world of sports and women. The module examines some of the problems that women face in the field of sports and how these can be addressed. Module number 5 and 6 are very important modules because they address the very crucial topic of the changing child sex ratio, commonly known as CSR. The module is accompanied by detailed maps that show the changing trends in the country. If you look at these maps, the picture that emerges is alarming, frightening actually, and it drives home the fact that son preference, the preference for sons in families, has caused the death of thousands of girls. The reasons for the son preference are actually culturally embedded, and they can only be addressed if there is a joint effort involving government, civil society and the media. The next module is module 7, which takes up initiatives that pertain to the world of business, and it is called Women and Entrepreneurship. Thus, this whole unit endeavors to give a bird's eye view, an overview of certain aspects of women's empowerment in the country. In Unit 2, the paper looks at the different forms of violence against women and girls in different parts of the country. What lies at the core of this violence are deep prejudices which are ingrained in the attitudes of people, and they have been nurtured through agencies like religion, like literature, like social norms for hundreds of years. Sometimes women themselves are often complicit in this violence. They become the perpetrators of this violence because they have been socialized by the very norms that disempower them. At other times, they are powerless to speak and they suffer in silence the abuse that happens to them. So, the first module in this unit looks at the practice of witch hunting, which finds its roots among marginalized communities. In India, Assam and especially the Northeast have a long history of witch hunting and practicing witchcraft. During the last few years, many witches have been beheaded, and in 2011 alone, there were 116 cases that were registered against women. It has been found that Jharkhand and Rajasthan also have cases of witch hunting. In Module 9, we look at the subject of sati. Sati is sanctioned by religious texts and it is glorified by patriarchy. In fact, in the Brahma Puran, it says it is the highest duty of the woman to immolate herself after her husband. What is incredible is that sati still happens in India in our modern times, and the much publicized case of Roop Kanwar brought this into the limelight. So this module looks at the history and the practice of sati. Module 10. Module 10 reveals the close connection between honor killings and cup panchayats. Actually, in earlier times, cups were liberal and forward-looking, and they were helpful to people. But in recent times, they have assumed a more negative role. One important factor for their continuance is that they are the poor man's court, giving quick justice without him having to resort to the judicial system, which we all know is not just time consuming but also very expensive. Although they have been banned, they continue to wield a lot of power, and people are afraid because of the social boycott that they are able to inflict. Module 11, honor killings or crimes of honor as they are called are a particularly brutal manifestation of the concept of honor, and sadly they are often committed by members of a family within the family. Honor could be related to caste, to community, to village, to religion, or even to an individual family. In India, it is estimated that there are 1,000 honor killings every year, and this is most prevalent in parts of western and northwestern India. That means Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, Delhi, western UP, and also surprisingly there are cases in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra as well. Frankly, honor killing is a global phenomenon and it exists on all the 5 continents of the world. Module 12 and 13 refer to acid attacks. This is an extreme form of violence that has emerged in the country relatively recently. The act of acid thrown on a victim's face and body with intent to disfigure have shown an alarming growth in India over the last decade. Hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid are often used as cleaning products, and they are accessible and they are cheap. These highly corrosive substances rapidly dissolve skin tissues, fat and muscle when they come into contact with the human body. Within seconds of an acid attack, the physical effects are already permanent and severe. In many cases, the victims suffer a slow and painful death. Based on past cases, it is estimated that cost of surgery and treatment for a victim of acid attack can be anywhere between 3 to 50 lakhs. So these modules address this particular topic. Module 14 is the last module of this particular unit, and it talks about the Devdasi system prevalent in the southern part of the country. Who are the Devdasis? They are worshippers of goddess Yellamma, and they are women traditionally dedicated to the goddess, mainly from Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. According to the National Commission of Women, over 2.5 lakh girls, most of whom belong to the Dalit communities, are dedicated to Yellamma. Many Devadasis end up with sexually transmitted diseases which are not treated because of poverty. Many also end up with AIDS and die. The Devadasi system exploits poor Dalit and backward girls in the name of religion, and it has now been transformed into a flourishing prostitution business. So that brings us to the end of Unit 2. In Unit 3, we have taken up a few remarkable women and have talked about them in different modules. These women have made outstanding contributions not only to the cause of women but to human beings. Among these is an academic, a politician, an artist, an entrepreneur, and 2 social activists, all of them carefully selected for the contributions that they have made. One module has been dedicated specially to the tribal women of this country. The first module, module 15 of this unit, is dedicated to Veena Mojumdar, who is also called the foremother or the grandmother of women's studies in South Asia. She was an outstanding person, and women's studies will be forever indebted to her. The next module is module 16. Module 16 is on Geeta Mukherjee. Geeta Mukherjee was a politician. She was in the Communist Party of India, Bengal, and she was elected to Parliament for 7 terms, a politician of impeccable integrity and deeply associated with the Women's Reservation Bill. The next module, module 17, is dedicated to Zora Sehgal, who everybody has heard about, dancer, choreographer, actor, and connoisseur of art, all rolled into one. Zora Sehgal lived up to the ripe old age of 102, and she lived a life full of vibrancy and color. The next two modules are dedicated to Ela Bhatt and Erom Sharmila. Ela Bhatt is the founder General Secretary of SEWA. SEWA has been responsible for giving financial independence to thousands and thousands of women in our country. And so Ela Bhatt deserves to have a special module dedicated to her. Erom Sharmila, on the other hand, is an outstandingly courageous woman who has fought against APSA in her state of Manipur and had been on a strike, hunger strike, for 14 years. Module 20 and 21. Module 20 is about Medha Patkar's involvement with the displaced people of the dam of the Narmada River project, and she is deeply involved with this Narmada Bachao Andolan and issues of displaced people, not just in Gujarat but in Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh as well. The tribal women of India come with their own set of problems related to issues of land, livelihood and gender. The module looks into their lives and provides insights into the social and economic problems that they face. With this, we come to the end of this particular unit. The next unit is Unit 4. Unit 4 of the paper casts its eye on selected areas of the country where, because of the intersection of politics, regional problems, and pervasive patriarchal attitudes regarding gender-specific situations, women have had a specially raw deal. The first module in this unit is Module 22, which looks at insurgency, state repression, and social movements. Women have played a significant role in these movements to carve out a space for themselves, for self-determination and autonomy, but at the same time, they have been victims at the receiving end of violence, both by militant groups as well as the security forces indulging in transgressions. Module 23 is about the peasant women in Singur. In order to defend their land, they even were willing to sacrifice their lives. And the module comments about the complexities and intersections of gender and what constitutes the Nandigram story. Module 24 is about Manipur and APSA. Manipur in northeast India has been marked by sharp political conflict and turmoil over the past few decades. The women of Manipur have been center stage in all the activities and the public protests that have taken place, and the module on Manipur describes the fight of these women against AFSPA. In Module 25, the question of caste is dealt with. Caste looms large on the horizon in the state of Uttar Pradesh. The module examines the intersection of caste and gender and highlights how women become instruments through which the social system replicates itself and systemic inequality is maintained. Now we go on to the next modules, Module 26 and Module 27. In Module 26, although the government lays responsibility on Anganwadi workers for their poor performance, they themselves have a different story to tell. And the model suggests ways that the performance of such a significant scheme can improve. Module 27 is focused on Kashmir. So mesmerized was the Mughal Emperor Jahangir with the beauty of Kashmir that he came up with this famous quotation, Agar Firdaus ban rohi zameen ast, hameen asto, hameen asto, hameen asto, which means if there is a paradise on earth, it is this, it is this, it is this. This module addresses the present situation in Kashmir vis-a-vis the women of Kashmir and how they have been having to face problems for the past few decades. The module also provides a socio-historical context and background to help you understand the situation. Module 28. ASHA workers are the backbone of rural health care for women and infants. They have a number of tasks, including motivating women to give birth in hospitals, bringing children for their shots, encouraging family planning, and many other responsibilities. ASHAs are also meant to serve as a key communication mechanism between the healthcare system and rural populations. Due to their unsatisfactory working conditions, they have been agitating, and this module looks at the various problems that ASHA workers face. Now we come to the last unit of this paper. It is worth noting that patriarchal oppression has continued to perpetuate social conditions that impact all society. Patriarchal notions about femininity continue to underline definitions of womanhood with images of weakness. Without engaging with the problematics of patriarchal violence, the issue of gender equity cannot be resolved. The first module in this unit is module 29 combined with module 30. These two modules look at the two-child norm policy of the government, which is part of a target-oriented policy of family size control, which was adopted in the 1990s. This policy encourages parents to limit the size of their families to 2 children. The modules on this topic critique the policy, enumerate the fallout, and suggest possible directions that can be taken in the future. Modules 31 and 32 focus on the very important issue of dowry. The two modules address the question of dowry in the country, the different forms it takes, and how, while always within the ambit of dowry, assumes a variety of faces in different regions of the country. It is important to remember and ironical that it all began with the intention of providing women security and confidence, but it has gradually transformed into a monster that has become unmanageable in contemporary times. Dowry deaths, the laws connected with the giving and taking of dowry are all covered in this module. In module 33, the last module, the state of Uttar Pradesh stands fourth after Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Daman and Diu in the area of malnutrition of women and children, and is counted amongst the worst performing states. This module critiques the performance of the ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme in Uttar Pradesh in the year 2013. The module also identifies problems in the implementation of ICDS in the rest of the country. So, my dear students, we come to the conclusion of this paper. I hope that this paper will give you an idea of the complexity of the gender question and its many manifestations. Just as the face of gender discrimination changes in region and caste and class, so must the strategy of countering it change from region to region. Evidence points to the fact that education of women is a strong tool in the fight against exploitation and abuse. But education alone is not enough. It has to be backed by the will of the government and the desire of society to effect change. So, until the latter two don't become more proactive, change won't happen. Nevertheless, the efforts need to continue. Substantial progress will be made only when the recognition comes that the improvement in the condition of women translates into the betterment of all. Thank you.